You are on page 40 of a book you stopped enjoying on page 12. You are going to finish it. Not because it gets better. You have no evidence it gets better. You are going to finish it because you have already read 39 pages, and stopping now would make those pages a waste. That sentence is the entire mechanism, and it is wrong in one specific place. The 39 pages are gone. They are gone whether you finish or not. Nothing you do next can get them back. The only thing any decision can actually change is what happens from here. And yet the money, the time, and the effort you have already spent is one of the strongest forces acting on what you choose next. Economists call a cost like that sunk. Psychologists call the pull toward it a fallacy. The word sunk is doing precise work. It does not mean large, and it does not mean painful. It means unrecoverable by any choice still available to you. That is exactly why it should carry no weight. A number, no option in front of you can change, cannot help you rank those options. In 1985, Arkes and Blumer put that pull in front of people who thought they were making a business decision. You are the president of an airline. You have $1 million of research money left. You can spend it finishing a plane that conventional radar cannot detect. Half the people were told one extra thing. Their company had already spent $9 million on that plane. Both groups were told the same inconvenient fact. A competitor is already selling a plane that is faster and cheaper to run. Of the people who knew about the 9 million, 85% spend the last million anyway. Of the people who were never told, 17% did. Read those two numbers again, because the thing that changed between them is not the plane. The plane is identical. The competitor is identical. The last $1 million buys exactly the same aircraft in both groups. The only difference is a history that one group had been told about, and it is worth being clear about which group got it right. The 17% are not the interesting result. They are the sober baseline. Told only about a faster, cheaper competitor, most people correctly declined to fund the slower plane. So this is not a study about people being foolish. It is a study about what happens to a correct calculation when you staple a receipt to it. Arkes and Blumer gave a plain explanation, and they wrote it plainly. The desire not to appear wasteful. Walking away does not lose the 9 million. The 9 million is already lost. Walking away admits it. And notice that waste is a judgment about the past, while a decision is a claim about the future. The fallacy is not that people care about waste. It is that a feeling pointed backwards ends up steering something that only points forwards. Which leaves a question worth holding on to for the next 10 minutes. If the pull is really about not looking wasteful, then which costs should trap you hardest? Not the biggest ones, necessarily. Keep that box empty for now, and we will come back and fill it. That was a hypothetical, and a hypothetical is cheap. So the same two researchers went and bought a theatre season. At the Ohio University Theatre, people arriving at the ticket booth were sold season tickets. The tickets were identical, the seats were identical, the plays were identical. What varied was the price, and it varied at random, decided at the booth rather than by the customer. That detail is what makes it evidence instead of an observation. Nobody chose the cheap seats by being the kind of person who skips things anyway. Roughly a third of them paid the full $15. Roughly a third were handed a $2 discount and paid $13. Roughly a third were handed a $7 discount and paid $8. Then the researchers simply counted how many plays each person actually turned up to. The people who paid full price used 4.11 of their tickets. The $2 discount group used 3.32. The $7 group, 3.29. Same seats, same plays. The people who had sunk the most money into the season went the most. A discount is a gift, and the gift made the tickets easier to waste. That is a strange sentence, because a wasted $8 ticket and a wasted $15 ticket cost you exactly the same thing on the night. Nothing. The money went months ago. Once you can see the shape, it stops being about theatres. It is the membership you keep paying to justify the membership. It is the course you finish because you are 2 years into it. It is the job you stay in because you have given it 4 years, and the relationship you stay in because you have given it 6. In every one of those, the sentence in your head has the same grammar. I have already put too much in to stop now. Read that literally and it says something absurd. The more of your life a thing has already consumed, the more of what remains it has earned. And notice what those last two have in common. Nobody spent money. They spent time, which is the only cost that can never be refunded, discounted, or sold to somebody else. A bad car can be sold. A bad ticket can be given away. There is no resale market for 4 years. So the costs most likely to trap you are exactly the ones no receipt was ever printed for. When the person deciding whether to continue is the same person who decided to start, the pull has a name of its own: escalation of commitment. The decision stops being about the project and quietly becomes about the decider. And it gets stronger when other people watched you pay. Reversing is no longer just absorbing the cost. It is absorbing the cost in front of everyone who saw you commit to it, which is why the hardest thing to walk away from is rarely the most expensive thing. It is the most announced thing. So, which costs trap hardest? On the evidence so far, not the largest ones. The ones you paid publicly, in time, at full price. Public, because reversing has an audience. In time, because there is nothing to recover. At full price, because nobody handed you a discount to make it forgivable. A cheap mistake made privately, in money, is the easiest thing in the world to abandon. That is the same finding read from the other end. Now the part that almost never gets repeated, and it is not a later correction. It is in the 1985 paper, a few lines below the result. The theatre effect held for the first half of the season. In the second half, it was gone. No significant difference between the people who paid $15 and the people who paid $8. The finding that made this experiment famous had a shelf life of about 3 months. Whatever the price did to those people, it wore off while the tickets were still valid. That is not a footnote. It turned out to be the shape of everything that came after it. 4 decades of trying to pin this effect down have produced a phrase that keeps reappearing in the literature. Empirically elusive, not absent. Elusive. It shows up, then fails to show up, and the conditions that decide which have been surprisingly hard to name. In 2026, a pre-registered study ran 1,806 people through a real task, for real money. They did find the effect. It was real, and it was small. 0.12 standard deviations. On a 14-minute task, that came out at about 1.3 extra minutes. Hold that against the story this idea usually gets told with. $9 million aeroplanes, ruined careers, wasted decades. The measured thing is a person staying at a dull task about a minute longer than they otherwise would. And those researchers made a sharper point about the classic design. Varying what people pay by handing out discounts may not test sunk cost at all. Their model says the effect needs you to land on different sides of a reference point. The line between this feels like a gain and this feels like a loss. Move the price without crossing that line, and the effect does not show up. Put concretely, if $15 and $8 both simply feel like a reasonable price for a season of theatre, then both sit on the same side of that line, and the $7 gap between them changes nothing. The gap only bites if it moves you across the line. From this was a fair deal to this one is costing me, which means the theatre study, and a good deal of what was built on top of it, may have been measuring where that line sat rather than how much had been spent. So what actually survives all this? The pull is real. It is smaller than the story told about it. It is conditional. And it is strongest where the loss is vivid and public, rather than where the number is large. And the version that survives is more useful than the version that did not, because it tells you where to look, not at the size of what you have spent, at whether stopping would require you to say something out loud about yourself. You are not haunted by $9 million. You are avoiding one sentence. I was wrong for 4 years. That describes the book on page 40 better than any of the arithmetic does. You are not finishing it for the 39 pages. You are finishing it so that starting it was not a mistake. And the honest thing to say about that is not that it is irrational. It is that it is a decision about your own record, wearing the costume of a decision about a book. The pages are still gone either way. The only thing still on the table is the evening in front of you. There is a companion to this one as well. Sunk cost is about a price you paid yourself. The next video is about a price somebody else pays for you. A favor. And why asking someone for one makes them like you more, which is the opposite of what almost everybody expects. That is called the Ben Franklin effect, and it is next. If you want the rest of the map, subscribe. Everything on this channel gets drawn the same way. The claim in black, the evidence in orange, and a line through anything that does not hold up. This is educational content about research, not clinical or professional advice. Sources are in the description.